multiple organs. So eventually, that is the reason they give medicines like dexamethasone and Mildol, which prevents that storm.
I know it is very dangerous.
You also had it, so I'm sure.
Even my wife suffered hugely for 3, 4, 5 days. We didn't know what to do. And even in case of, we retired personnel, we didn't know which hospital to go, where to contact, all those hassles. But somehow she knew one person who had recently recovered through this virus, and she used Ayurvedic medicine. So I told her, yes, you can contact her and find out. And then she gave the detail, what are the medicines. And somehow we just resorted to that Ayurvedic medicine. Before that, we were taking Coronil, but still we got infected and then we have had problems. But
your wife is a doctor, no?
My wife is a doctor. My wife is MBBS doctor. But for this virus, I think what I understand, this yoga and Ayurvedic medicine remains more effective. So that's what she resorted to, and 4, 5 days it took to recover. But then it was okay. Thank God. It was very tough.
It's just that you got to be cautious. They say 7th day you need to be really cautious. 11th day. So there are certain days you need to be really watchful as what's happening inside your body. Go for a test, go for CTs, go for X-rays. Because every medicine, there is a very typical point at which you take an antivirus. There is a typical point where you start steroids. So you need to be cautious because, things like remdesivir and a lot of other medicine, they stop working if you take them beyond 11 days. Though we've been, people been prescribing anything at any time, and people are making money, but the time is very crucial when which medicine is taken during this time, and you need
very correct. Right, madam? I think you can go ahead with your class.
Sure, sir.
We'll have ISTD Noida Chapter class.
Sure,
and Ms Vandana Tyagi will take paper 5, right?
Yes.
Madam, I should make you host.
Yes, please.
So make host. Please go ahead. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Hitesh. How are you?
Fine, fine.
I'm just trying to share my screen. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So I understand a couple of you had asked me for sharing the icebreakers and brainstorm exercises I had talked about in last class, but I did not have your email addresses. So maybe one of you, you can take down my number, share these email addresses times, I mean, you can use them, you can share with your other friends and probably share the feedback with us. Beyond this, what we will do is that the topic which is kept for today is managing questions. We will talk about that as well. We will briefly review the entire facilitation process. What are the key things at each of this step? It is important that you frame your questions right while designing your program. At the same time, you are very cautious in taking questions of your participant so that you are able to, people are able to take back to the learnings in a more solid manner. At the same time, you do not happen to apprehend anyone because, by making them think that the question was not relevant. So it's another process of involving people. At the same time, what you can do is you can elicit what have they understood with the program. You can deepen their action planning. You can deepen their own understanding of the concept. You can force them probably in a friendly way to share with their peers what's their take on it. Because we as facilitators, what we do is we only connect the concept to experience of people. They are learning when they have that moment of insight. Because when they're connecting their experience with a concept, and they're able to bring in very relevant examples for their peers and others. So it's extremely important we leverage that opportunity and window of questions in a way that it's a win-win situation for you as a facilitator, for your participant, and at the same time their own peers in terms of sharing their experience with each other and bringing more pertinence to the entire training subject. I have brought in a couple of slides which I had discussed in my past presentations, thinking that they will be more relevant and they will complete and be more comprehensive in terms of helping you close the picture. Before I do that, I want to understand from each one of you how it is being going and anything specific which you want me to cover today. What we will do is we will probably spend 10 minutes. Please talk about one question from an assignment also, because Subhiji brought in assignment last time. Subhiji, I don't know if you did not have my mail ID or so. I did not get your mail either.
Yes,
yeah. So my email address is tyagi@hotmail.com. You can, but let's take this opportunity to hear from each other and what's their take on a specific question. So we'll try and pick up one or two questions which you can say in the conversation itself. And let's see how are we applying our mind and how do we plan to answer it. So if I need to fill in the gap, I will possibly do that. But let's learn from each other's experience, because let's connect our experience with the concept which has been asked in the assignment. The point is, how do you bring in real life experience and how do you bring in that answers back to life and to an implementation level? So that's what facilitator or evaluator will look at. That how do you understand how practical you are in your findings and applying those learnings in terms of real-time facilitation. So we will briefly talk about overall process. We will talk about questions. We will talk about verbal cues of how should you be paraphrasing, how should you be listening, what are the different types of questions, and overall facilitation process. And one question from an assignment. Anything else which anyone wants to discuss, we are more than happy to include or probably prioritize.
Slide गई?
Slide आ रही है. So I request all of you to go on mute if you're not speaking. Rupeshji, do talk about your book. We all, we're keen to hear from you if time permits today or probably in the next class. We want to hear about your book as well. We want to learn from you. I've been thinking of for so long for writing a book. I want to write on diversity and inclusion. But somehow, either I'm not able to muster courage to start it, or I've written in bits and bits here and there. So I would need some coaching from you there.
Okay.
If nothing, we will get started.
Okay,
Shrutika Singh I see is a new name, so I think I did not see this name often in the classes. So I encourage you
Yes,
to talk.
Actually, I'm working as a HR in IT firm. I have 6 years experience. Hello.
Yes, Shruti. Yes, I can hear you.
I stay in Delhi. It's a IT product based company. I'm handling all the HR activities like employee life cycle. In this, training and development is also there. So that's why I opt for this course, so that I can improve in giving training and doing this program in my organization.
Perfect. So what kind of trainings do you do, Shruti? Is this onboarding or induction exercises?
Yes, we have onboarding and joining trainings also. Apart from that, sometimes we have to give the personality development and the confidence personality basically related training also to the new joinees, like who are like just pass out from the graduation, post graduation. So we have to make them groom a little bit according to the corporate world basically.
Okay.
How to do mails, how to write mails, how to presentable in the meetings. So these kind of training is going on. Apart from that, we have the technical trainings also from the external teams. Yeah, because we are IT company, so we have some technology upgradation training and everything. So that also organized by us.
That's wonderful. So I assure you, you are at right place, because facilitation becomes extremely important in making people, come a new person to come to an organization, feel included in the process, do the right level of onboarding, at the same time be effective in all your conversations, and helping them with the right kind of inputs and identification of right pointers. So people will feel comfortable with you if you're able to include them well. They'll be able to come to you with the right needs, with the right training needs, and they will be able to share their problems with you. And in turn, you can actually bring in right trainings for them. You can be effective in your conversations. We will talk about key pointers, which will so it's effective is not a word. It's actually, you can, if you follow a process, you can be effective. So make a checklist. So make a checklist of things that this is what you will do, and eventually the end result would be effective in the conversation. So people will start seeing you as effective. Effective is not a magic wand. So you can write 10 things. If I'm doing these 10 things, then eventually people will perceive me as effective. And I will achieve the results or my goals.
Okay.
So I've been talking about what are the traits of an effective facilitator and how do you carry on effective facilitation. So I'll reiterate a couple of them today, and I'll talk about questions. Any new names here? So we've been talking. So Rupesh and Sudeep, these are some people who are veterans in this space. Priyanka, I've seen the name. I think Priyanka, we have spoken. Arnab, we have spoken earlier. Priyanka, we lost her in the conversation. I request Arnab to share maybe so the ground rule for our conversation or start of our meeting, all of you share your videos for 2 to 5 minutes, so 5 minutes to 5 to 10 minutes. Then you can switch off your videos. So we all are struggling with our connect in our virtual meetings. That face-to-face connect we are missing. But if we are able to do that, and if we don't have any connectivity issues, let's do that 5 to 10 minutes at the start of a conversation. Post that, you can switch off your video. Arnab, are you comfortable to talk for now for 5 minutes to tell us about what you had been doing and what's your intent of joining this course? Yes, we can see you, but I think you're speaking on mute. We're not so intelligible as yet to read to hear the lip sound. Okay, and I think you're facing some problem. It shows me mute. I think he's facing some problem. He's talking, but he's not able to unmute himself. Are you not able to unmute yourself? I think Arnab is facing some problem. So Arnab, we will resolve this next time. We look forward to hear you next time. Rupeshji, my voice is very low or what?
Yeah, at times it is becoming inaudible.
I mean, I can choose to take off the headphone if that's better.
Now
this
it's better.
Okay.
Yeah, now
Perfect.
it's better.
The technology has its own challenges.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we have talked about this. What is effective facilitation? When you make everybody feel welcome, you're able to include people. You will have people with different experiences and different backgrounds, with different cultural background, with different physical features, with different level of hierarchy, and with different level of communication skill. So how are you able to, make them feel welcome, wherein you are flexible and you're able to maneuver and you're willing to, accept everybody where they're coming from. When you establish a clear goal, you clearly help, at the start of a meeting, you say, this is what we want to establish during the conversation. You're able to establish the clear expectations. Expectations are extremely important. What we also do at the start of a conversation, we gather expectations from people. And once we finish the conversation, we go back to those expectations to validate and recheck, did we meet those expectations? You foster communication. So inclusion and communication are the key for you to become a winner as facilitator. You need to ensure that you're able to include people from where they're coming through different things. You can do that. You can be round robin. You can make everybody talk, or you can bring in examples which are close to everybody. Maybe a shopping experience. You bring in case studies or role plays where you're able to make people talk. Once you're able to, make people talk and be part of the conversation, this is the reason I even encourage that do a 5 minutes icebreaker even before a meeting. Because, when people come into a meeting, they come from different kind of priorities. They come from a different kind of, they must be doing something. They've been, their mind is really busy in something. So once they have entered into a meeting room, and if you're discussing something really important, they're not able to free them up from the last agenda they were on. So eventually it becomes extremely important that, you mentally allow them, or you do a 5 minutes, you let them break from what they've been doing. And you do that through an icebreaker. You help them be in the room and be in the moment, which could be a much smaller icebreaker, not taking more than 5 minutes. But if you do that, you're able to mentally create that physical break from what they've been doing earlier, and you're able to bring them into the room. You then, bring them closer to the topic. You ensure that, you take their point. So it's about framing the right set of questions. Don't tell them this is what we want to do. So what we can possibly do that, this is what as a team we want to achieve. If you want to be part of this such a super classic team, how do you believe, and what do you think we can possibly achieve? So involve them in the picture. Tell them what you want to achieve, and don't be very directive in terms of this is what we want to achieve. So you start with if this is what we want to achieve, how we possibly can contribute. You model participation, you be part of it. Probably if you have odd number of participants, and if you have, you're doing a icebreaker which need even number of participants, you become one of the participants. You keep the time, at the same time, keep the discussion alive, keep track of the time, give them relevant breaks wherever, when you feel the discussion has become monotonous, then you give them a break. So make sure that you are live in the room, you are understanding what's happening in the room, and you prevent stagnancy. Keep on the topic. Sometimes, people get into conflict because of their different viewpoint, and they completely digress from the conversation. So you make sure you have those, time cuts. You tell them that let's stay on the topic, and you bring them in a lively manner back to the discussion. You guide the participant through the content. You have an established content which you want to achieve by end of the conversation. So make sure you stay there and you bring people back to it. You should not be discussing examples which are off the track, and you should not be sharing examples which will actually disengage participant. You might bring an example like you're going on a US trip, or you're visiting Italy. Maybe 10 participants out of your group has never gone to Italy, so it's not a relevant example. So you make sure that first of all your examples should be relevant, and your examples should be in a format which is connected to the topic you're discussing. Are you with me on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is what we had discussed, but this is one comprehensive slide where I'd include everything, so I brought this in. Anything which anyone wants to add to this slide? Okay. We also talked in today. Also, we will talk about how should we be answering questions. But these are a couple of questions which we have discussed in past. That what are open-ended questions? Open-ended questions wherein they're not yes/no questions. Closed-ended question is when you have yes/no as an answer. Typically, when you want to, when you're voting, or when you wanting to clarify a perspective, you ask closed-ended question when you want to reach to a conclusion. But open-ended question let you, stimulate thinking. You encourage greater participation. You let people bring in their experiences, and you increase the team participation. So that's when you ask open-ended question. What are overhead questions? Overhead questions when you address, so somebody asked a question, or probably you have a question, and you ask it to the entire group. You encourage discussion. You channel at times, you want to channel group thinking. You want people to talk to each other. So that then you what you do is that you relay the question to everyone. At times you want to prevent groupthink also. So there are different situations wherein there are remedies for groupthink as well, wherein you individually let people participate. What are relay questions? So relay question is that I asked a question to Arnab, and Arnab, rather than I answer that, I relay it back to others. So probably, and I can ask it to Rupesh. If what is a reverse question? Reverse question is when you don't have when you ask a question in response, and you don't have. You this is like an eliciting more information, and you are asking it back from the group. Redirected questions. So you connect it to the previous question, and then you give a greater understanding onto a particular subject. We will come back to questioning technique. We will leave little further. So these are a couple of things we talked about in effective facilitation also. How can you be global in your approach? You need to speak. Sometimes, so there was some person was discussing a situation with me, and this person was saying, I was facing a problem that, one person, so within this person was a great leader. And he was saying that, one person in my team, so he had an Australian, he had a person from US, he had a person from London. So he had, and he had from Singapore. So one person, and because of this COVID time running, this person started a format wherein he will do a 15-minute connect with 15 to 30 minutes connect with all the members as a team. And what he was feeling that there was one person who was not participating, and who was not talking during the conversation. And this person wanted to figure out that, why is this person not talking? And then eventually, and then maybe this person felt, the leader felt that this person is very, is introvert, or he is, high-headed, he does not want to share. He is, the different kind of perception were built about this person. But later on, when this person, leader spoke to this person one-on-one basis, this person was from South Africa. And he was saying that, I'm having a hard time understanding the 4 accent in a 30 minutes meeting. So I do not, all my energy and effort goes in understanding what you guys are talking. So at times we assume a lot of things, but we can always clarify these doubts at the start of a conversation. But still, speaking slowly and clearly. So these days they say speaking clearly is new empathy, and talking clearly is listening, is the new time listening. Because at times, we happen to say something, we have a different meaning, we don't clarify, and it has different connotation for different person. So what you do, you should speak slowly. You can possibly, if you have people from different geographies and multicultural teams also, it becomes easier to connect with people through visual aids. You provide specific examples, you rephrase, you put important information at end of a substance, at the sentence. So what, normally people used to say that you should say that at the start of a sentence, but what I have seen that it makes more impact when you say that at end of the sentence. You can emphasize, you can bring in relevant examples, and it becomes easier for a person, because now you're finishing and use shorter sentences. Then it becomes easier for a person to grab what you're saying. Inclusion is extremely important, because that's where you bring people into the discussion, and that's when you connect with them. You should avoid interrupting, we all know that, and you should do not use colloquialism, which is something which is a humor for you, or probably humor for one person from one geography, could be a sarcasm for other person. So please use your jokes and humor with a caution, and you make sure it's good to not use humor, which is And if you have to really use, please be using it with a caution. So these are a couple of things, and we've been talking about all of them. We also talked about biases. Anybody wants to share any of their experience with biases? What is a bias?
Preconceived notion.
Let me increase my volume. Yeah, my volume is increased. Yes, please.
Preconceived notion.
Yes. And these perception actually, they bring in, they immensely color our conversation. They immensely color our, our ways of thinking, which we don't realize because they are unconscious for us.
Yeah.
They become part of our conversation. We don't even realize that they have become part of our conversation. So it's extremely important that we stay cautious about them. One is a confirmation bias. So in a confirmation bias, what we do is, so we make an opinion, as you rightly said, Steve, that we make a judgment. Like, somebody comes for an interview, and I look at a couple of things. And probably maybe this person comes from the same college, or this person has a similar level of experience, or studied in the same school, or lived in the same community, or somehow may have similar interest, or maybe part of the same groups I am part of. So whatever could be a reason,
Sorry.
but I make an opinion. So I make an opinion, and now once I've made an opinion, I am only framing my questions in a format to confirm my opinion. So I'm only confirming the conclusion which I already made. I am not asking objective questions. I am not. So what I did in my interviewing skill training, this is what I used to train my senior leadership on. And if there is a profile, let's have a set of questions. So to remove a bias from my conversation, the only way I can do it is by putting a process to it. So this is what I want to achieve. So this is what a success criteria for this role. And this is what I want to hear or learn from a person, or understand from a person, that this is what this person has done in his past role. So I'll frame those questions. So I want to get information on 3 key things. I will frame all my questions around these 3 things. And I will ask the same set of questions and to all the 10 participants who are coming for an interview. And at the same time, I will record my findings, and I will objectively make my opinion, which is not dependent on the way this person is dressed, the way this person looks. There was an exercise which was done like in US, in opera. So people just play, they don't talk. So the trainer was blindfolded, and there were very less women in opera. So what they did is they blindfolded a trainer, and then they took audition of people. And incidentally, he had picked up and he had chosen more women in that audition versus the overall group always had been male dominated. So what we do is, at times we make an opinion. We make an opinion with probably the way this person's facial features, this person's skin color, this person, the way this person's hair are. So, and we don't even realize that. So that blindfolding was very revealing exercise, because this person was not able to see the other person. And now this person is assessing and evaluating. So if you do this kind of exercises, you realize that, you've been putting biases, though you very objectively say that, they're never part of my conversation. So confirmation bias is when you are confirming things just for your reference, when you've concluded. Hindsight bias is when you bring in experience from your past, and these are your biggest cognitive biases, because, we are intelligent beings. We think that as we have plethora of experience, and that experience has given us that judgment, that experience is what I am talking from my experience. I know this is right. So wherein more learning or more reading, probably more experience and more hindsight perceptions is what we bring in. What is better than average? In a famous study which was done on people faces their abilities, 88% of the Americans ranked themselves in the top half when it came to driving safety, when they were asked to rank their driving skill. And 93% of the Americans said they were better than average. By definition, only half can be above average. So what's ongoing? What's going on here? This is what psychologists say. They call it illusionary superiority or better than average bias. And it is pervasive in all walks of life. The better than average bias is also called Lake-Wobegon effect. After the radio variety shows, a prairie home companion. So there is a story behind that. I'm not going into it. So this is what we normally, better than average bias talk about. Then there is an attribution bias. So what our beliefs are very much grounded in how we attribute the casual explanation to them and lead to something called attribution bias, the tendency to attribute different causes of our belief and action that of others. Like normally when we say, if I had not been successful because the situation was like that, or but there was the circumstances like that. But if probably Shruti was successful, I would say, oh, she had my support as a manager. She had all the right circumstances. She had the conducive environment. So when she was successful, I have different reasons to attribute versus when I was not successful, I had different reasons to attribute. One is availability bias. This is extremely important, more so in the virtual environment, because what happens that when you work in a global team, if somebody who is available, so and in fact, I mean, have you noticed that when you're running and when you're in hurry, you feel that I'm getting more red lights, and every light is a red light when I'm in a hurry and I want to reach someplace quickly.
True. How even on a toll plaza, we always feel that the queue we are into, that's the slowest one.
True.
Absolutely correct, sir. That's how it feels. Yeah.
I mean, that's how we feel it is. So what also happened in availability bias is, I was saying more so in virtual teams, is that, now person I can see and I can probably have coffee with, I feel more comfortable with and I see more available with, because this person works at the same time zone. What happens that if somebody is, if out of sight is out of mind, so somebody is say working from Australia for me, and if I have an immediate work or if I have an immediate project, I'll probably give it to maybe Arnab or Shruti, because I can see them, they are available, I am more comfortable, I know them, how they will act on. So I don't experiment with my virtual team. So let's make sure we have a map of strengths and weaknesses of each person in the team, and we are completely objective in assigning our assignments or giving our project or small or big works within our team. What is a backfire bias? Has somebody heard about it?
I'll try it out.
Yes, please.
When I was working in, my boss, so whenever we used to give him an idea, he used to say, "Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Why don't you implement it?" So the thing used to backfire on us, and people gradually stopped giving him ideas, because they had this idea that whenever we give him an idea, it will bounce back on us. So due to that, they stopped giving ideas. So maybe that could be an example.
Anyone else? you notice that when you present people with a fact that are contrary to their deepest held belief that they always had in their mind, so what's their reaction?
Normally they become aggressive.
They become aggressive.
They start defending.
They start defending. So backfire bias is that we all have our ingrained beliefs. We have, so there was, I was just reading about a project. So the two colleagues, one was looking at marketing that project in Australia versus one was looking at marketing that project in Singapore. And both of them brought in their data, and both of them had their experience of working in their different geographies. So they brought in their examples and they felt that so they had their own belief system, and they were not willing to look at data which was contradicting their belief system. So the point here I'm trying to drive is look at the situation from the objectivity and facts of it. Things which were relevant 10 years ago might not be relevant today, considering the realities or everything around that has changed. Maybe that was the right decision to take at that point in time, but maybe that's not the right decision today. So backfire bias help you to understand, put all the facts on the table, take the decision objectively, considering the facts, and be open to looking at facts from the other person as well. So do not, bring in your assumptions and your facts. Facts also change, situations also change. So at that given situation, bring everything on the table and connect it with the, relevant data available, and be open to what the other person also has to say and what other person also bring in as a data. One is an authority bias. I'm sure you will all understand this. You all have your examples about it as well. If anybody wants to talk about authority bias.
Boss has got all the answers.
Actually, there would be no option actually. So you have to follow. Maybe this is the.
So I think some of you
So,
are.
ma'am, for example, maybe if I can quote one, so maybe
Yes.
what happens, say if there is an opportunity or maybe a new role comes up, or maybe if there is a project, and we know that in every team, there is a right hand of a boss, and that often is there. And what is usually seen, maybe the opportunity at times are given to the people who are more favorite to the guy who's in authority or maybe who holds a post. And I think that may be taken as authority bias. And I'm just trying to guess.
So all of you are right in a way, because it pans out and plays in different formats. Authority also mean we give at times, we give authority to somebody more than others. Like probably if I see Shah Rukh Khan endorsing something, I have given him authority to, to have that kind of influence at times that this is better. This is this is what I can experiment with. So yes, it plays in your day-to-day life also, wherein the boss at times happen to say that I have seen more, I am more experienced than you. I have seen it. This works better, and I'm talking from conviction and experience. You better listen to me. So that also pans. But at times we give authority, we give certain authority to somebody who are just, at times unworthy of that authority. If somebody is endorsing a particular comb or a oil or maybe a cigarette or a brand of beer, we are, we want to, we feel this as a single law of embellishment. We show it in our parties that yes, this is what this person also do and I am also doing. So we at times, sometimes we are forced to give authority, sometimes we give authority subconsciously without even realizing that we are giving importance to this person in our life. So this is for you to be cautious that you should not give that unworthy boost. So at times, if you are forced to act in a situation because of pleasing your bosses or keeping them happy, you might do that, but that you should not internalize it. At the same time, you should not take it back, and do not leave your objectivity in the situation with your subordinate, and make sure that every time, so because this person did that last time, but do not stop bringing an objectivity or facts to the given situation. There is an intentional blindness bias. In intentional blindness bias, so there is a study wherein that shows two teams of 3 players each. One team wearing white shirt, another black shirt. As they move about each other in a small room, tossing 2 basketball back and forth among themselves. The task is to count the number of passes made by a white team. Unexpectedly, after 35 seconds, a gorilla enters the room, walks slowly through the farrago of the bodies, humps his chest, and 9 seconds later exits. Most people think that they would see the gorilla, but in fact, experiment shows time and again, 50% of the subjects do not see the guy in ape suit. Even when asked if they noticed anything unusual, they don't even see it. So this effect is called intentional blindness bias, which is more or less means that you tendency to miss things that are right in front of your eyes. So you believe that how can we miss something which is right in front of our eyes? So it comes to a power of our perception, but at times we believe, because we see so engrossed in something, we are, we have even done experiment wherein I will probably touch my right cheek and I will ask you to touch left cheek, then you will see me and you will touch your right cheek. So at times, what you do is a couple of things, or you are into something, you do not, intentional, unintentional, but you're blind to certain things which are around you. You're not present to that situation, and you don't even realize that something is so much in front of your eyes, but you don't even see it. Are you with me on that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually happens when I'm out for, say, some grocery shopping. So my wife gives me a list, that these are the things to be brought, and I go and get only those things. But when my wife goes along, she brings several other things as well. So she says that you are intentionally biased. You do not look at other things and you bring only those what is told. So
At times, it's good to be intentionally biased. You do not overspend.
yes.
These are, I can leave these, like we do an exercise called blind spot bias. So my point of telling you all this is just to be sure of that you guys are sure of that there are certain things which we do. And if we are intentionally biased to something, so probably, maybe I'm conversing with Jitendra and he has a completely different viewpoint. So I was just seeing one example with this person paints the ball Mike from and other person, I saw one of you is not
रुपेश जी का शायद
किनका
रुपेश जी का शायद बैकग्राउंड में नॉइज आ रहा है.
mute. So what I'm saying is that so this person had painted ball from one side white, another side black, and asked person to both of them to look at. So one person was seeing white, one person was seeing black. It's not that any one of you is looking at is wrong in your conclusion. The only thing is you need to be sure of is that you are willing to ask the right set of questions. You are willing to accept the facts and information. So you seek information, you elicit information, you ask other person to give the data against his or her argument without completely suspending, without suspending judgment by saying that whatever he or she is saying is wrong. So, keeping your eyes open, keeping your options open to hear from other person what this person has to say. Then there are blind spot bias. We all do. You have heard about Joe Harry window?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes, there are a couple of things. So they break you into 4 windows. There are certain things which you know about yourself, others also know about you. There are certain things which you know
Yes.
about yourself. So there is a complete training on Joe Harry window. But once you are open to feedback and you are, you talk to people and understand and try and elicit information the way you act in a meeting and the way you've been seen with by others. So then you open your blind spots. You increase your, the window of something you should know about yourself. Okay, now we will come to our questions. So there are a lot of biases in terms of anchoring bias. We are always associating things with our past experiences. So what you can possibly, you first of all, when somebody is asking you a question, you can look at 4 things. Is the question about, what is the focus of the question? Is it knowledge, which is seeking facts, clarifying concept, or asking for generalization about a topic? Is it a process, as in what will happen? They compare and contrast the situation. You synthesize the ideas, or you choose a particular situation. Is it effective? Are you asking people for their opinions, feelings, attitudes, or belief? Or is it a behavior, as in how can they apply their knowledge, and what will be different then after applying this than before? So question could be of different types. You have to accordingly, put this in a window particularly before answering. This competence window, I can talk about it, but we all know it's as in when we are learning a particular thing, we move from conscious incompetence. So first we are unconscious, like we learn driving. So when initially we are incompetent, we are unconscious. Then somebody tells us that this is gear and this is, this is how at this speed you should drive at a particular gear. So then you become conscious. You still remain incompetent, but you become conscious that this is how you change gears. This is how you change direction. Then you move to, now you're conscious, and you eventually, you now can have that coordination of gear and steering wheel. So you reach to stage 3, wherein you are conscious and now you're competent. Over a period of time, while driving, you can listen to music, you can talk to your friends, you can even eat. So you become so unconscious. You don't have to be very, very conscious that now I should change the gear. Now I should, change the, this is the speed. Now this is my speed. I should be at 4th gear, or I should be at 5th gear. So you're now unconsciously competent about it. So this is a learning cycle. This is a competence cycle, wherein you move from unconscious incompetent to unconscious competence. So how should you be asking, how should you be planning, tips for asking questions? So this is what the slide specifically when you are actually designing your program. So these are the questions which you should ask your stakeholders while making a program, while designing a program. and you plan your question, you distinguish facts, because this is how, if you are asking the right set of questions and if you are asking, comprehensive and robust question, you will be able to design your program well. How should you be handling and responding? One thing is quickly what you can probably do to deepen the understanding of others and also to check the understanding of others. You can state that question to entire group. You can pause. You can. So these, questioning moment is something which you should leverage for. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So questioning moment is something which you should leverage for fostering communication within the group. You can recognize the contribution, you can validate the learning, you can connect the experiences of people with the content of the topic. You should avoid yes or no questions. And you should also be very, very watchful in terms of non-verbal cues. If somebody is, touching their nose, or somebody is, moving their hand and the eye movement. So be very observant in terms of are people taking it seriously? Are people disinterested? Or people are not feeling connected to the subject? So this is an opportunity wherein you can, you can bring those people who are not included in the group or who are not taking interest by putting their skin in the game, by asking them certain question, or probably asking them to share their experience around a specific subject if they have, or probably their interpretation of a particular topic which you had discussed, or their view of how they can implement this in their work settings. So this is how you can rephrase. First you can ask people to, maybe even you can ask others to rephrase the questions, or you can validate, you can rephrase yourself, but include others as well. You should avoid defensive responses. Like you, first of all, you should be welcoming each question. You should be appreciating each question as it comes to you. If you know the answer to that particular question, you can give an answer. But at the same time, you can very politely say that you do not know it now. You will probably come back with the right response, and make sure you then, you give the required detail of your email address or anything like that, through which you can connect back to this particular person. Or you will say that I do not know, but I will connect with the right person, and I can, be a medium to get answered for you. Do not try and solve or answer multiple questions one go. Break the question into logical chunks and then give answer to a specific single issue. How should you be responding? You should be first paraphrasing. You should be exploring further in terms of asking more questions to elicit information. You should be mirroring. What is mirroring? Anyone knows? So mirroring, what you do is you mirror the other person in terms of maybe the body language, the choice of words. Maybe you can, if this person is moving in front, you can also lean in. So give that kind of a comfort. Use the similar kind of words. So mirroring, when you be like the other person. You can stack the question, maybe similar type of questions are stacked in one place, and then you answer them by, pulling them out of a parking lot at the right time, or probably similar type of questions are answered in one format. You can encourage, you can make, you can create spaces so that people are, able to ask questions. There should be intense, there are a lot of things said about silence. So there should be a silence in between, wherein you allow and let people ask their questions and give them an opportunity to think for probable answer for those questions. You listen for common grounds. You can paraphrase in various formats. Probably, I hear you say this. Let me understand if it is right. It sounds like you are saying this. So validate your understanding always. Further explore. So there are certain statements I have given which will help you further explore by asking the because sometimes, the literal meaning of words is not right. So literal meaning, what they have understood and what you are understanding and trying to answer, make sure that you elicit that information and seek those clarification questions from them. They say something because for a reason. So please also clarify what's the reason for saying. Do not assume. So at this stage, extremely important for you to drop your assumptions and perceptions. And do not bring in past experience. Let people bring in their experiences. Let people talk about their experiences of what has worked for them in past in their situations. But you do not bring in any hat of assumptions while trying to understand. Let people be completely lucid with you in terms of helping you understand. If people rather encourage people to bring in their experiences, maybe something which has worked for them, and these are coaching moments for others can also try. Mirroring examples, like as I said, is you mirror the body language, you talk the same language, you talk about the same authors, you talk about the same books. Stacking, you can let people, you can stack questions, you can stack people in terms of answering those questions. You can probably, if you have 10 people in the room, you can ask 5 of them to share their interpretation on that particular question. Always be encouraging in terms of, because if you encourage people on their specific questions or in their specific understanding, they feel included in the process. They will be more attentive for the next conversation. They will feel valued in the conversation. So don't think, don't make statement by letting them, there is at times we happen to unconsciously make a very unincluded language. At times I will be in a room. So this lady was talking that this lady was at a very senior position in her career, and she had all men in the room. And the person who was facilitating the meeting was a very senior person, and he said, "Okay, let the lady say it first. Let it be ladies first." But what he was trying to do is include a lady, but lady, because of the statement he made, felt excluded. Maybe I'm not like others, so he wants to give me more privileges. Why so? So make sure that your language is included, and do not make assumptions. So there was a conversation I was hearing somewhere. So to lady, he asked that maybe this is lunchtime, you might have to follow up on your son's pickup from a school bus. The lady had no such problem. She did not have to follow on her school bus, but there was a guy right next seat, and he had to rather follow, but he was not even given an opportunity to follow on his son's bus with a driver. So at times, so dropping assumptions, including conversations, letting everybody come from and share their situations, not making any perceptions about anything. Making spaces, including language, letting people talk or ask people if they want to add anything. Sometimes, maybe if there is a very vocal group, maybe 10% or 2% of the people, 20% of the people are talking 80% of the time, rest of the time others are not even speaking. So you make sure you may include everybody, let them, because at times they have very valuable ideas to share, because they've been thinking all this while they've been thinking. So they have, so they will have a deeper perspective on this. So make sure including them, you listen for common ground. So as a group, end of the day, let's agree on something or disagree on something without dropping assumptions. So including larger. These are a couple of tips I have listed for listening. Build answers and questions in your presentation, appreciate, compliment the people, you frame your answers, or paraphrase. At times, you should not be ignoring if there's certain question, somebody has asked you a question which is out of the league. You may say very politely that this is something which is off the track. I will still make an attempt, or probably others can answer. But you should not be ignoring something, or you should always be coming back to that person. And recognize have those 10 cards. Recognize the people by their name, because they it's always been said that sweetest thing people can hear is their name in the conversation. Answer the question clearly. Do validate if you have answered the question. A couple of, I've just put in this slide. This is about this talks about the facilitator's methodology. I have just listed a couple of key pointers which I felt would be relevant. Sometimes we feel that logistics and a lot of things are important, like participants, process, agenda. But the important thing is purpose. People should know that process, agenda, people, product you can rest, build on, but everybody should agree on the process. What is, how can you prepare? So there are a couple of 10 principles I have listed here. First principle is preparing for success. So I'll quickly cover it in 5 minutes, and then I want to come back to the question, the assignment part of it. How should you be preparing for success? You should be interviewing your sponsors. You should identify what are the key roles in the session. So people who have a better influence, people who have who understand the situation or a problem rightly, you should be speaking to those people. You should know the process cold. Process cold is when you've lost people and when there is lull in the process. So you educate. So there are a couple of things. I can share this PPT if you need. What are the 5 P's of preparation? What is the purpose, product, participant, probable issues and processes? Purpose is extremely important. That why are you having this session? Should you be starting meeting with a review of the agenda? No, you should be starting with the purpose. With purpose, with the right set of questions, you can actually create that connection with people. How should you be getting questions? Oops. I just switched on a voice and reached the last slide. It's extremely important that you are able to involve, excite, empower, and first you're able to inform people. So people should be excited. People should be, be part of the process. You should inform them. You make sure you create excitement to empower them when you involve. So involvement is the key thing because that's how you bring in people back to the meeting. I have mentioned that how should you inform? Inform is like you tell people about the people, the purpose and the product, and this is how you inform. How do you excite? You talk about WIFM. WIFM is what's in it for me. So you make sure that why should people be attending your session? You empower them to create that level of discussion. What authority will you give them? And why were they selected? So empower them, tell them they are valuable people in the organization and this is the reason and this is the process we had chosen to select them to be part of that conversation. Involve them by asking their personal objectives and what will they gain from the participation. So there are a couple of excite examples I have given you. So this is excite in terms of what is it that we will do if we are successful, we'll walk away with new hiring process. So I've just put this, there was a hiring process. How much one struggle if there is a wrong hire in the process. So with this exercise, we were trying to have a better hiring process. So people get hired and the right person get hired in the process. So you inform them and at the same time, you excite them with an end result and the purpose of the conversation. So if example 1, if we excite people, if we are successful, we'll walk away with a new hiring process that will help your organization get the right people hired and get them hired quickly. Versus statement 2, today you may have people on your staff who do not have skill or attitude you need. As a result, you are having much work done to make up for what they are doing. This is your opportunity to put strategies in place to ensure that you get the people you need to get the work done. Which one is a better statement? Example 1 or example 2? Are you with me on this? Which one is looking better to you?
We,
Can be first one.
First one.
first one. If us, we will all of hiring process.
I need more votes.
First one.
Everybody for first one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone for second one? I have used more you and your in second one. I suggest you use both of them and then experiment. Because every time you're using a name of a person, or if you are bringing them in the conversation by saying your stuff, so you're involving them in the process. So experiment with these statements rather than trying to see what works better. So I want you to absorb this particular slide and experiment with that particular slide. If you use more you and your statement in the conversation versus you use a generic conversation wherein you are talking about or our organization, which settles better with me, which connect better with me. So I'm not putting right and wrong here. I want you to experiment with this specific slide. And just connect, step into your own shoes. If somebody make that statement to you, your opportunity to put strategy in place that you get the people you need to get the how empowering at times it may sound. So the couple of things is avoid detour. My internet connection is not that stable today. How should you be focusing on the group? How can you be avoiding? How do you review, and what is a big view? So I would not go detail into this. Is it okay for you to rephrase as long as you ask people for permission? Sorry for that. Do you think it's okay? I've now highlighted the question also. So, I mean, I am just sharing, I personally use second statement better. So I personally use this one in my conversations because I'm able to connect better with people through this. And I refrain from rephrasing because I mean, when I come back, you disarm because these are the words people use. So you might, while answering the question, you can tweak something here and there, but while writing them on a flip chart, always use the words people has used because you don't want to disempower the group and reduce the ownership because you want them to own the answer and own the solution as well. There's some slides more to it. I don't want to go in detail of it. Probably if you want to discuss, I mean, I can share and we can discuss next class. But there are a couple of dysfunctional behavior. In dysfunctional behavior, you should be conscious of what are the dysfunctional behavior people are. So these are cues for you to understand how involved people are and how bored people are in your conversation, how people are involving or engaging. So there are certain dysfunctional behaviors. There are certain ways to handle dysfunctional behaviors. So if it is about, and you should know that, how should you be when you should be trying to resolve it and when you should not be trying to resolve it, because at times people have there are certain conflicts which far deeper. So you don't even, if within the meeting something which you can resolve, do that. But if it is, if I'm very angry and I have far more bigger conflict, don't try and resolve it then and there, and just ask people, seek permission. So they should keep it out of the conversation during the meeting, and you carry on the meeting, and then whatever is resolvable, do that. As I think Sudeep rightly said, he'll probably take the person to a side, and he will have one-on-one conversation with these people. That works very well. That works better than trying to solve it along with the group. So they have just mentioned a couple of dysfunctional behavior, naysayer. Who are naysayers? So some people who opposes everything you say. So they are naysayers. How do you bring in consensus building? Consensus building can also be done at 3 levels. Level 1, when people are not clearly heard and understood. The other alternative is, so there are certain things, like I was just reading, I put in one example here. Level 3 disagreement is the personality and past history. Don't try and resolve level 3 within the training room. You can resolve the level 1 and level 2. So there was this example wherein there is a husband-wife, they want to go on vacation. Husband wants to go on a beach, wife wants to go to different cities in Italy. And then they come from the different experience. Wife had been working and managing kids, and she wanted a breakout. And husband had been traveling for work reasons, and he wanted to relax and wanted to go on a beach. So they had their own strengths. And so what you can possibly do is, you can put in alternative 1, you can put in alternative 2. What is the strength and weakness? What is it that you want to do? You either decide when you both agree on a particular strength, or you delineate the differences, and wherein both of you, one benefit which wife wants gets it, and one benefit which husband wants get it. So this is how you can probably delineate alternatives. So you can have a third alternative as well. But level 1 and level 2, you can still, on strengths and weaknesses, you can try resolve. But level 3, you don't resolve, and you should have consensus.
Ma'am, that consensus part is not clear.
Okay. So what I mean by consensus is sometime within so while I'll start with, because what you do is that probably me and Rupesh, we are not agreeing on something. So what you first do is you first understand the disagreement. You start with consensus and decide if the agreement is necessary. And I will answer it with an example. So level 1 is wherein are there any alternatives? So if I have, if me and you have conflict on something, is there a different alternative we can probably look at? So we have our, we all hold different values. So I will probably explain it with an example which I was talking about. Well, there is a 1-level third disagreement wherein I say I have a conflict with you on personality, or I have, there is a huge conflict between me and you because we have completely different value system. We have fought about something or other, and we have a huge history of uncommon fights and arguments. So then that's irrational, because that it cannot be resolved in the training room. You don't have, because it's a past history and personality difference. So don't try and resolve a level 3 disagreement. But level 1 and level 2, you can still resolve. So one thing is, as I cited on an example, there was a husband-wife, there was a couple who wanted to go on a holiday. Husband wants to go on a beach and wife wants to go to different cities. So what we did is for each of the alternative, like alternative 1 and alternative 2, we put in time. How much, how long, who is involved, what is involved. So what we will do is like alternative 1, we want to go to Italy. Second one, we want to go to beach. Strength 1, strength 2. Strength 1, Italy, we wanted to visit 5 cities, so it'll have varied location. If we will go to places we have not been to, we will have a lot to do. But weakness, it'll be hectic. Every day you will be packing bags and you will be moving to a different city. You will not have any water sports. Alternative 2, if you go to a beach, you get to rest a lot. You sleep in the same bed. You get to do a lot of water sports. Second thing is, but weakness is, it is the same location. You're going for 5 days and you are staying in same location for 5 days. You have nothing different to do. Every day you will get up and you will do water sports. You will do same set of activities every day. Now, because these are the strengths and weaknesses of each of the choice you have. Either what you could, but husband wants to, relax and wife wants to visit different places. So what we will do is that we will merge the alternatives. We will see what we can probably do is either we can go to a cruise, wherein will offer us benefit of beach as well as it will give us different locations to visit. So what you can do is either come to a third alternative, or you can agree on something, or you can probably agree on you're willing to give away. Like, let wife understand that this will be a hectic schedule. She will have to pack everything every day, and they'll be running on the places. If she has seen now the weaknesses, maybe she would also want to go to a beach. So let's decode or probably dissect each of the choices for each one of you to see clearly that this is what you will probably get into if you take that choice.
Okay, ma'am.
Does
Also
that-
here we are, yes, ma'am. Also we have to change the pitch and bring more convincing situation, or we have to bring in more convincing situation so that we can merge the alternatives.
Oh yes, you can. So probably what both of you need to agree to is what you are willing to give, or what you are willing to give away, and what you're not, what is negotiable and what is non-negotiable. So you write on a piece of paper, this is I must have in vacation, this is I can still live without. So that's how they had now created a third choice. They went on a cruise, or they can probably go on a scuba diving. So the point is, you dissect on the basis of strengths and weaknesses, and then you conclude. This is all. I probably want to go to the assignment question before. So there's a closing question. In the closing time, you also bring in questions from issue list, decision list, or action list, or parking lots. These are called IDA. I think, Sudeep, you wrote in.
Yes, ma'am. I wrote in the chat box. This is what is happening nowadays because of the lockdown. We are facing so much of like working. We have to give more time to the work and all. So it is happening that most of the Sundays, even in the morning hours, I had a meeting and then somehow it got closed because of some technical issues. So I was able to be a part of this training. So it is happening with every Sunday and Saturday. We have to work. So this is what we are facing a problem. So we are not able to, like, I think this is the situation for all the corporate people who are facing right now because of the situation, and the numbers are not happening, so lots of pressure is there. So that's the reason we are working on Sundays also, and it will be a continuous process at least for 1.5 2 months. So I don't know how to manage this, but if we can get all the recording thing in the link in a mail, it will be very helpful for all of us, I guess.
Yes. So these classes are recorded. This is our 5th class, and they are on a YouTube channel. Verma ji can share that link with you, and you can possibly look at those recording, and you can bring in your questions again in the conversation. Next time when we meet, we will also have a review class wherein we can discuss about all the questions.
Okay.
So, okay. So Rupesh ji, you have written a question. So what we want to do is we want to talk about couple of questions. So these are the questions in assignment, Rupesh?
Assignment, ma'am.
Okay.
These are 2 questions which I have to write.
Okay. So the question, should I share my screen? I should stop share. I should share my screen so that everybody can
Yes, yes.
share screen. And now I can chat. So you can all can see these questions. Knowing the importance of rapport building process, facilitation technique and facilitation skills used in training process, succinctly describe how different training groups such as executive training, mid-career training, in-house training, and open training program uses rapport building process, facilitation technique, and facilitation skills differently with suitable examples from your organization on your own training program. Yes. So I will first relate to the group and we will talk about it. And then there is another question. I think this is something which we have discussed already. The icing on the cake of any training process is based on how to manage questions and how to manage the participants. It is natural to ask whether managing questions and managing participant is an art or science. Provide suitable examples, 5 situations to highlight how training program would benefit from managing appropriate questions and managing quality training effectively, which would add value to already the well-planned training program. So since we talked more about questions, we will start with question number 2. And I want to hear from you that what is it that how should you be managing questions and how should you be managing participants? 3 key things which you should be talking in managing questions and 3 key things how should you be managing participants. Bring in examples as well, but at a concept level also talk about these things. So top 3 things which you should do for managing questions. Anyone can do. I mean, I think we have talked about more than 3 things. So So 3 things according to me would be, first of all, you should be recognizing a question. First of all, you should be validating the understanding by rephrasing the question. Secondly, you should be, recognizing appreciating a question, definitely. You should take that as an opportunity to foster communication by including people. Third thing is you should be validating their understanding by deepening their learning and forcing them to create an action planning against whatever is being taught or whatever is being discussed in the conversation. So what's your purpose of this training? Your purpose of this training is to let people feel welcome, let people be learning in the process, and at the same time taking back those learnings to their work settings. So first, rephrasing and acknowledging people and ensuring that you're recognizing their contribution. Second is involving them and fostering communication. Third thing is ensuring you deepen their learning and forcing them to create an action planning around the conversation. around the, translating this. So I'm talking at a fourth level of learning in evaluation, training evaluation perspective model, wherein you are trying to talk about what is their take on this. It's not a knowledge level they are learning, they are learning at a learning level wherein they are able to translate their knowledge into work. So these are three things which are top according to me. Anyone else want to add anything else? I can share this presentation, probably you can pick something else from there, but these are top three things. Then, give examples or give, basic understanding of these three things. How to manage participant. So do this, as an effective facilitator, what you should ideally be doing. As an effective facilitator, you should be welcoming people, you should be capturing their expectations. So how you manage participation, you build in, first of all, you let them feel welcome. You capture their expectations so that you're able to, connect the conceptual or a contextual understanding with their expectations. So you're able to involve them in the conversations, because that's the only time, as per principles of adult learning, they will have those moments of insight and they will have those learning moments. So you involve participants, you make sure that you do a conflict management in the process, you build in consensus in the process. What should you resolve? What you can probably, if there are conflict in the group, you do a strengths and weaknesses format to make sure that you're building in consensus within the group. You're including them, you are giving them opportunities by giving them those moments of insight, by involving them and letting them bring their experience in the meeting room. So how do you manage? You make sure that you do not let participants derail your conversation. Stay on the time, involve them, foster communication, guide them through the content, make sure you're giving them relevant examples, make sure you have done a relevant audience analysis to know that what kind of background and experiences they are coming from. So you're able to involve them better. And you manage them so in the best interest of time, you're able to take the entire group together and achieve your learning objective. It's definitely both art and science according to me. Because you need to understand where people are coming from, what are their learning styles, how are they making perceptions, how are they, how are they making decisions, and how are they learning in the process. So you make sure that you are understanding people at a behavior level, and you understand their attitude, which is a function of multiple things. How do they learn things? How do they, which is part of their environment, their group think process, their bias and perception. So it's a typical art, and then to that art you apply a process. So you apply a science so that you achieve your objective. Everything, how do you take away the biases? How do you take care of the perceptions? You apply a process to it. You define a process so that people can be taken away from their decision making through biases. So it's both art and science, and then bring in those relevant examples. So next conversation, now we are already at time. What I will probably do, we will stay in this question, and if time permits, next time we will talk about examples. I want you guys to talk. All of you come from huge background and huge experience of facilitating sessions yourself. So not necessarily sessions. The examples can come from your peer conversations. They can come from facilitating meetings. They can come from multiple places. The point is making sure whether it is a meeting or a training session, you achieve your objective, you let people feel comfortable with you, and your perception among them is they look forward to have a conversation. I at a assignment level, I was looking for much more participation. Somehow I did not get that participation level, and I'm letting that go because Jitenderji, I want you to contribute on this particular question in assignment and bring in examples. I can give in my examples, but if you give your examples, then probably it's little better. I can improvise them. but all of you have huge experience. Bring in examples, and please use real examples, because that's how you will connect. You will score better on your assignment. People will be able to connect better with what you're writing. It cannot be only theoretical knowledge. And I think we are already at time. We will have to carry the conversation next time.
Sure, ma'am.
Anything else from anyone? Any closing remark? Is it probably what should I come up with in our next class?
Ma'am, regarding this handling of participants, what I feel is that there are 2-3 categories of people. One, those who are always speaking. One who never speaks. So as a facilitator, it is my job to ensure that all of them are getting an opportunity and they are willing to share their ideas.
True.
So that is a challenge which I have to handle and have to manage very, very judiciously.
Correct. Correct. I agree. I agree. And you have to implement a lot of those tools. The reason I say it's both science, because you will apply a lot of those tools. You will have icebreakers, you will have brainstorming technique, you will have those lotus brainstorming technique, wherein you eventually put a process around creating that environment.
Yeah.
So you don't leave it to, and that's the reason planning becomes so important. That you put process around everything, and everything, though it's an art, but everything starts happening and you achieve it.
Yeah. So basically, creating involvement is dependent on are they able to relate themselves with the training or not.
True.
So fine. I mean, nomination, prior to the nomination, if we have a say as an external trainer, that is well and good. But most of the time, that is not. That doesn't happen. So we get participants not necessarily required for that group of for that training. Most of the trainers are not trainers. The trainees are just nominated just like that, whether they are related to that function or not, irrespective of that. So creating interest in the topic, that itself becomes a challenge for us. So something we have to find out from them which interests them, and we should somehow include that as a part of training. That is how we can create the involvement.
I agree completely. And if you're able to do the involvement or not able to do the involvement, you'll be able to see that from their faces.
Yeah.
Their facial expressions will show you that are you successful. So you really have to be very observant also. Maybe you have put in 30 slides, but you end up discussing only 5 and you have more icebreakers in the process. So that will also happen. And you might have to discover, bring in a different brainstorming technique, just like that. So just be observant, be watchful in terms of what their faces and facial expressions are telling you, and their body language is telling you. And now the virtual body language is telling you. And accordingly, take that change, because you will only gain and participants will only gain if there is involvement in the process.
True.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time today. You have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.